What if one photo could destroy everything? Was it because of a witness statement, or maybe even a police informant? Well, in this case, it was just a simple photograph. A man holding a block of cheese in his hand. That single image would lead to his identification, his arrest, and a prison sentence of over 13 years. This is the story of Carl Stewart and how one of the most secure criminal networks in the world was undone. For years, organised crime across Europe operated in the shadows. Drug traffickers, weapons dealers and money launderers all shared one thing in common. They believed that they had found a way to remain anonymous, and that system was known as EncroChat. It wasn't just an app, it was an entire ecosystem built around secrecy, specially modified phones with encrypted messaging, hidden operating systems, even a panic button that could wipe the device instantly. To its users, it wasn't just secure, it was untouchable, and across the UK, thousands of criminals relied on it every single day, including a man in Liverpool operating under the handle ToffeeForce. Behind that name was Carl Stewart. At 39 years old, Stewart was deeply embedded in the drug trade. From his base in Liverpool, he was involved in supplying large quantities of cocaine, heroin, MDMA and ketamine. Every deal, every movement, every instruction was sent through the Encro platform. There were no real names, no direct contact, so there was no evidence. It was the perfect system, or at least it seemed that way. The alias ToffeeForce wasn't random either. It was a quiet nod to the Everton Football Club, a small personal detail hidden within a much larger criminal operation. But details, as it turns out, are dangerous things. In 2020, everything changed. European law enforcement agencies launched a coordinated operation that would become one of the most significant breakthroughs in modern policing. It involved French and Dutch authorities working alongside Europol and the UK's National Crime Agency, and their target was the EncroChat network. What followed was unprecedented. Investigators managed to infiltrate the network itself, not by hacking individual phones, but by accessing the system at its core. The messages were no longer secure and images were no longer hidden. For months, authorities watched as thousands of criminals unknowingly revealed everything. This operation would later be known as Operation Venetic, and it would lead to thousands of arrests. But among all the intercepted data, one image stood out. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't drugs, and it wasn't cash. It was a photograph of a block of Stilton cheese, still in its packaging, labelled from Marks & Spencer. It was held casually in the palm of a hand. Now, to most people it meant nothing, just a mundane snapshot, but to forensic analysts it was evidence. Because visible in that image, clear enough to analyse, were the ridges and patterns of a human palm, including fingerprints. Investigators enhanced the photo, zoomed in, sharpened the details, extracted the prints, and then they uploaded them to Ident1, its UK's national fingerprint database. The result came back with a name, Carl Stewart. Fingerprint identification has become one of the most reliable forms of forensic evidence. Every person's prints are unique, even partial prints, even distorted ones can be matched with enough clarity. In Stewart's case, the image provided more than enough. The palm, the fingers, the positioning, it all aligned. He believed the photo was harmless, but it became undeniable evidence. And in that moment, the alias ToffeeForce was no longer just a handle, because behind it was a real person. With the identification confirmed, investigators moved quickly. Stewart's activities on Encro had already linked him to large-scale drug distribution. Now they had something stronger, something physical, something that tied him directly to the device. He was arrested at Manchester Airport on the 27th of January 2021. He was quickly charged with multiple conspiracy offences of conspiracy relating to the supply of cocaine, heroin, MDMA, ketamine, and the transferring of criminal property. He was brought before Liverpool Crown Court, and the evidence against him was so overwhelming it left him with no option but to plead guilty. The court handed Carl Stewart 13 years and 6 months in prison. It was a significant sentence, reflecting the scale of his operation, but what made the case unforgettable was how it all came together. It wasn't through surveillance or informants, but through something as simple as a photograph. Detective Inspector Lee Wilkinson later summed it up. He said Stewart had been caught out by his love of Stilton. Carl Stewart wasn't alone. The infiltration of EncroChat exposed a vast criminal network operating across Europe. Tens of thousands of users were identified in the UK alone. Thousands were arrested. Authorities seized tons of drugs, millions of pounds in cash, alongside a wide range of firearms and ammunition. Some estimates suggest that the operation prevented possibly hundreds of violent crimes. For law enforcement, it was a turning point. For organised crime, it was a warning. Criminals trusted EncroChat because it removed risk, or at least it appeared to. But technology doesn't eliminate human error, and in many cases it amplifies it. Stewart didn't confess. He didn't slip up in conversation. He simply shared a moment, a small personal detail, and that was enough. In the end, it wasn't the drugs, it wasn't the network, and it wasn't even the investigation that brought him down. It was a single image of a block of cheese, and the detail he never thought anyone would notice.